Hello, everybody. Welcome back to That's Life podcast. I'm your host, Abby Luckett, and life has a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and many in-betweens, but the thing that remains consistent is our God. So let's see what we talk about today. It's 2026, and I am not immune to the fact that there are a lot of debatable topics out there. There are opinions flying here, there, everywhere, and everyone has their own opinion, and facts are facts. You can't really argue with the facts, but you can argue with opinions. And today I'm going to try to blend the two. I do not claim to be a doctor. I do not claim to be a nutritionist. I do not claim to be a sports scientist by any means. However, I have had my fair share of experiences with nutritionists, dietitians, therapists, trainers, all of the above, doctors, in the health and wellness space. So I do feel like I have somewhat of a blend of knowledge and personal experience to be able to share my opinions on controversial topics in diet and exercise culture today. I kind of started thinking about this in a different lens when I watched a Jubilee debate with Jillian Michaels versus like 20 body positive activists. And I found a lot of it very interesting because on one side of the spectrum, there's my emotional side of health and wellness that, you know, involves intuitive eating and listening to your body and food and exercise being an emotional thing and needing to honor how we feel about things. And then on the other end, I have my health and wellness brain and my marathon training brain and my determination and dedication over feelings brain. That's like, but if you want to accomplish goals, you have to put your feelings aside. And I kind of go back and forth between the two because in recovery, you have to learn how to separate your brain from your ED brain, and your ED brain can tell you things and make you go all in and all or none and perfectionist mindset to a point to where it becomes toxic for your body. And so anyways, I've just been thinking a lot about where I stand with that conversation. I highly recommend you guys to go listen to it. It's very interesting. And I kind of found myself somewhere in the middle. And I think that that is a place that you can live. And so I thought, well, I wonder what other controversial topics and, you know, stances that people have on certain things today around diet, exercise, nutrition, fill in the blank there is out there. And there's actually a lot of statements and questions and things and opinions out there, obviously. So I thought, why not add fuel to the fire and put my own opinions and thoughts into the mix? Now, again, I know I said this before, I'm not a doctor. So if you are listening to this with the lens of what Abby says goes, please know this is all purely based off of personal experience and information that I have gathered from different sources that have come across to me in my phase of life. I have not studied these topics extensively. Now, I do have a major that studied sports sciences, so I do have a little bit of that under my belt, and I've read many books that I will be source dropping if I do state anything. But this is purely from my ED recovery perspective, my Christian perspective from the Bible, opinions from the Bible. If you're ever curious what I believe and what my opinions are, read the Bible. There you go. You have it. So all that being said, that's the view of where I'm going to state my opinions on these controversial diet and fitness questions / hot takes. However, before we get into that, if you look behind me, I'm sitting on my kitchen counter. Yes, Ryan and I are in fact here in Tampa, Florida. We're in Tampa, Florida. Guys, I'm so flipping excited. It feels very surreal. The reason I'm sitting on my kitchen counter is not because this is the podcast studio. Absolutely not. It is because this is the only place in our apartment right now that gets good lighting, and we don't have our big lights right now to be able to have my face be shown. So I'm sitting in front of this big window that faces out into the city, and it's very beautiful. I love it here in Tampa, Florida. But stay tuned because Ryan just went to Best Buy and ordered a bunch of new equipment for the podcast, because if you listen to last week's episode, we are officially one episode in to season 9 of That's Life podcast. I'm very excited about what's to come. We're getting a new camera, new lights, new guests, new structure, new system, and we're also having our new segment, which if you submitted an anonymous story time, That's Life that'slifepotty@gmail. That'slifepotty@gmail.com. That's what it is. We've started submitting anonymous stories from you all. We're going to read 1, 2, 3, however many we want to at the end of each episode, just to get you guys more involved. We want to open up the conversation, get out from behind the screen, and share some advice or share our thoughts or share your story of the prompts that we will be asking. And the prompt that we asked last week was your craziest dating stories. So I'm excited to get into those at the end of this podcast, a little bit different from the topic that I'm going to be talking about today, but we love a little contrast. So anyways, we're here. We spent all week moving in, and I vlogged the whole thing on the vlog camera and then accidentally deleted all of the footage. Don't you just love that? I just deleted all the footage. Why? Just for funsies, I guess. So no vlog this week on the YouTube channel, but it's okay because I live, I learn, and I will be more careful next time. Lucky, our little deaf puppy, is at school right now. She's going to puppy training for 3 weeks, and it was such a blessing from the Lord because she wasn't supposed to go into training until 10 days after we had moved in, and we were really worried about moving and doing things with a 6-month-old puppy. But the trainer literally took her the day we moved in. I just reached out and I was like, hey, we really need some help. And she was like, you know what? I can just take her today. And I was like, oh, thank you, God. Like, that was literally a miracle from God. We were praying for a miracle, and there it was. Because what dog trainer is just going to be like, yeah, I can take your dog day that you ask me? Praise Jesus for that. And she's doing really well. She's been 1 week into school, and I get videos all the time, and it's so cute, and I miss her and I love her, but she's doing great. What else is there to update you on? Nothing really. We're kind of just like filling out our house, decorating it. I'm excited to do a house tour soon, but that'll be, a little bit later on because I don't want to show it just yet. We don't have everything, and there's still boxes everywhere and stuff. So like we just don't really need it. So anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into some of these controversial topics and questions. So this comes from parade.com, and I literally just looked up controversial diet and nutrition questions, and this is what came up. So if you want to answer along with me, please do in the description below or in the comments below. State your facts and your opinions, because this is just one person's personal opinion and thought, but I really want to know what you guys think about these too. So let us begin. Are low-calorie sweeteners a better alternative than sugar? Here's the thing. For me, personally, I'm going to have to say no. However, I do consume alternative sweeteners and artificial sugars. It depends on better. Better is a relative term. If you're saying better meaning the most healthy for you, no. The answer to this question is no. Artificial sweeteners are actually probably worse for you than just plain old sugar if you're talking about holistic. Now, if you really want to be holistic, whole foods, and stick to the most natural thing, probably shouldn't be eating white sugar either if that's your goal. Alternatives would be date sugar, coconut sugar, those kind of natural sweeteners, maple syrup, honey, that kind of thing. Sugar is addictive. White sugar is literally addictive like a drug. And back in the day, they used to think actually that sugar was a health food, fun fact. But then over time, it kind of evolved to be this addictive thing. And yeah, it's a whole thing. But for me personally, I'm going to opt for the zero sugar, sugar-free. That I'll just say it. I am. Why? Because it's fewer calories. Like, I'll just say it. And I probably should preface this with, I'm not going to be talking about like exact calories or anything like that, but for me personally, I do consume artificial sugar. I don't think it's the best thing for me, but if there's a bar with artificial sugars in it and I really want it, I'll eat it. Sorry, like I will. And I think that's the balance that I have to meet myself for me specifically in is, I want to eat healthy. I want to promote healthy living. And I am not blind to the fact that artificial sugars are not good to put into your body and are probably toxic for my body, honestly. But if I have a craving, I want to honor that, because that's the battle between my health brain and my ED brain. Is my ED brain tells me all or nothing, don't consume, don't have this, don't have this. And then my healthy brain, my recovery brain says, hey, if you're craving this food, you need to honor that craving and you need to eat it. So if you want a Pop-Tart, eat the Pop-Tart. And then my healthy brain goes back and it's like, or like my health food brain is like, oh, but Pop-Tarts are so bad for you and blah, 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 blah. And then I have to be like, well, bad is a relative term because, you know, whatever, this, that, and that. I'm never going to just have a blanket statement of like, I eat this and not this. And everyone's going to have their opinions on, you should eat the Pop-Tart because you're craving it. And you shouldn't eat the Pop-Tart because it's full of processed sugars. And I'm not going to look at someone and say, hey, you should have your diet be consumed with Pop-Tarts because it's good carbs. I'm not going to say that. I'd be like, you know, good carbs are sweet potatoes, sourdough, things like this. Fruits, vegetables. And in the same breath, if I'm craving a Pop-Tart, which is pumped with both real sugar and fake sugars, if I'm craving it, I'm going to eat it. I am going to eat it. So I meet somewhere in the middle between, you know, it's a spectrum, it's a balance. And I don't even like to use the word balance because sometimes I just don't want sugar at all. And then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'll go for the extra cookie. I'll go for the extra candy, whatever. No food is bad food, but there are foods that are going to make you feel better and make you feel worse. And after I have artificial sugars, yeah, I don't really feel too good. But after I have a bunch of real sugar too, I also don't feel too good. So there's not really a win to this situation. But if you're saying that artificial sugars, what was the question? Artificial sugars are a better alternative? I would say they're not a better alternative. They are just an alternative. I wouldn't say they're better necessarily. You're comparing something that everyone has a unique and subjective view on. So like if your focus is macros, then yeah. And better being better macros, then yeah, they're definitely better macros because you've got 0 sugar, 0 calories. And if that's what you're concerned about and that's your goal, like you're a bodybuilder, then yeah, that's better for you. But if you're more consumed or concerned about like what you're actually putting into your body, I would say opt for the real sugar. I personally do a mixture of both because I focus on the food that I'm intaking. However, I do try to stay away from, you know, consuming too much because there was a point where I was consuming like tons of artificial sugars and I literally, TMI, but I literally pooped out foam. That's when I was like, okay, I need to get a rein on this. Like, this is not good. Because I looked it up and the result of pooping that out was literally consuming too many artificial sugars. And I said, oh, I don't think this is good. I don't think this is a good way to steward my body. I don't think this is what the Lord intended for me to put into my body. And that's the other thing is that like artificial sugars didn't exist back when the Bible was written. And so like the Lord tells us to treat our body as a temple. And I just don't think over consuming these things, I mean, overconsumption in anything is not honoring your body. And in the same breath, again, my ED brain is never going to tell me I can't have a certain food because I can't operate like that. That's not a world that I can operate in. I'm going to wrap it up here because I feel like I could go on and on about this topic back and forth. But yeah, I just think it's very subjective, honestly. Does corporate funding bias health research on sugar, fats, and processed foods? I'm sure it does. I don't really have the knowledge to talk on this, so I won't go too deep into it because like I'm not just going to fill this hour with trying to form an opinion when I don't have the right facts to form this opinion, but I'm sure it does. I mean, we've seen time and time again how in different systems run by corporate America that like where the money is, that's where the talk is going to be and the suggestions are going to be. For example, when I was watching the Jubilee video with Jillian Michaels, she said she had an insider on one of these big, you know, Pepsi, Coke, whatever you have it, companies. And she read files of literally saying like, hey, advertise as this because this is going to make people feel good about themselves. But really, we're having the opposite effect on them. So let's tell them one thing, even though it's the opposite. And we know it's the opposite, but this is going to make us more money because this is how people are going to feel about this if we market it like this. Like, big corporations and things like that definitely are fueled by money, and where the money is, that's where they're going to go. So I'm sure, but I'm also not 100% standing behind that topic because I just don't have the knowledge. But my gut reaction is like, yeah, probably. Like, I'm sure it does in some way. Next one, is a plant-based vegan diet healthier than eating meat and other animal products? So I actually went vegan for like 3 months in college. I just kind of tried it out. I don't know. I had a little vegan phase when I was younger too, and just got obsessed with like all these vegan YouTubers. I just thought the vegan diet was like super interesting. I watched a bunch of documentaries of vegetarian, vegan, all this kind of stuff. Again, it's so hard to speak on these because healthier is a relative and subjective term. And I feel like that's going to be the constant theme throughout every single question that I answer. But I think it's very person to person. If I'm trying to give a blanket statement, I would probably say no, unless it's for some sort of specific reason. But like to the general public, I would argue that it's not healthier, it's just different. For me personally, I feel worse on a vegan diet. I don't get the proper nutrients that I need if I'm not eating meat. And the Lord created animals for us to eat. I mean, I do think there is beauty in eating animals the proper way. Now, I am not for inhumane ways of pumping animals with, you know, all these fillers and making them bigger and forcing them to do this, that, and inhumane ways of going about getting your meat. And so that's why I'll always try to opt for, you know, if it's in our means, in our budget, and just we have access to it, like, you know, the farm meats, the farmer's market meats, the humane ways of getting animal products, local farm eggs and local honey and all these kinds of things. Because you also just supporting local is the way to go, period. But healthier, when I was having my vegan phase, like I had to take a bunch of supplements because I wasn't getting certain things in my diet that I needed, that I was previously getting from meat, meaning like B12, which is energy. You just don't get all of the minerals and nutrients that you would get from, you know, an animal based diet. However, there are plenty of vegans and vegetarians out there who are informed enough to be able to thrive on that. And so, you know, to each his own. It's like, okay, well, if you have, what's the disease where like you can't eat meat? Is that Lyme's disease? I think it's Lyme's disease. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you were looking at it from the lens of that, well then yeah, a vegan diet is healthier. So again, it's subjective, it's person to person. For me personally, I do not feel good on a vegan diet. I am never full, always hungry, very puffy, stressed, not satisfied. And yeah, I just tend to try to fill up and I can't unless I have meat. So I do feel like I thrive on meat. Junk food advertising to children. Can I read? Thank you. Should junk food advertising to children be restricted? I would, this one's tricky because on one end of the spectrum, I'm never going to look at my child. Let me say this. I'm never going to look at my child and say, that's a bad food and that's a good food. That I do not want to speak to my children like that and have them grow up with the mindset of bad food and good food. I want them to know there are foods that are going to love them back and there are foods that are not going to make them feel as good. But if we have these foods that don't make us feel as good every once in a while because we crave them and because they're fun and they create memories, then great. However, you're not going to feel good on foods that don't make you feel good. So we want majority of what we eat to be foods that make us feel good. Whole foods, fruits, vegetables, meats, complete proteins, simple carbs, things like this. Ultra processed foods. So I don't know if I would want my children to grow up blind to the fact that there is, you know, there are foods out there that are ultra processed. Like, I would honestly want them to just be informed and know how to have that view. I feel like it's the same lens as like, you know, being a Christian in raising Christian children and wanting them to have, you know, wanting to provide them with the truth that I know and wanting them to know the Jesus that I know and living in that truth and walking in that truth. But knowing that there are other outside influences and at some point, like, they're going to experience those things. And I can't hide them from that. Like, I can't hide my children from the fact that there's evil out there in this world. And so I'd rather them have exposure to that while they are under my wing than have them have exposure to it once they leave the nest, and then they have to deal with it on their own and they don't know how to. So honestly, I would say probably not. Like, I think it's a good way to inform your children on how to decipher what's going to love them back and what's not going to love them back. So I don't think advertising junk food to children should not be a thing, personally. I just think with proper tools and communication, it could actually be a really good teaching moment. Next thing, also, I just want to say, I don't have children, so like maybe that might change when I have children, but just from like what I envision parenting to be, I feel like that would be my stance on it. Okay, next. Should manufacturers be required to label foods containing GMOs? Yes. I think we should all know what we're putting into our body. Yes. We should know everything that's going into our body. That's pretty much where I'll leave that. Is intermittent fasting a safe and effective way to manage weight and improve health? Again, this one is person to person. So I listened to a podcast. It's Diary of a CEO podcast. And it was a panel of women, but the lady that was speaking on it is Dr. Stacy Sims. And I've listened to a bunch of podcasts with Dr. Stacy Sims. I think everyone should go listen to her, female and male. She's a female athlete, like sports athlete advocate, and trainer. But I'm pretty sure she has all of these things. I mean, she's a doctor, so she just got all this stuff under her belt. She's very, very smart and well informed, but I didn't know that majority of like everything we learn in the health industry, health and fitness, wellness space is based off the male body. And she basically went into detail about how like intermittent fasting can be a really, really good tool for men, but it is not good for women. And I'm a believer, and I definitely believe we are called to fast. For me personally, fasting from food is not the way that I feel called to fast. I fast from other ways, like social media or specific food groups, like sugar. Like I fasted from sugar for Lent, or just little things like that. But I just think with my history, it could lead me to a very dangerous place. And maybe one day I'll be able to fast from food, but I just know the Lord has me in a place right now where he's like, you know what? We're just not going to go there yet. And he knows my heart on that. But I just think I have to be extremely careful. But I do think that there is a time for fasting. And I do think intermittent fasting can be a great tool. In the Biblio Diet, written by Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin, they talk about how intermittent fasting is actually, our bodies are kind of wired for that. And our bodies are not made to eat all day. We're made to eat in windows and operate in routine and then sleep for, 10 hours and not eat. And that's how our body's wired. And our bodies can thrive like that. However, like intermittent fasting as a diet thing to like operate on every single day and live by that, I don't think for the female body is the best way to thrive. And if you want to know the specifics behind that, look up Dr. Stacy Sims. And she goes all into detail about how it puts your body into stress. And as a woman, we do not thrive on chronic stress. I mean, I firsthand lost my period for years and years and years because of chronic stress. And working out fasted is not the optimal way to work out as a woman. For a male, yeah, okay, but we have like hormones and we need fat on our body to produce these hormones and to keep up with the female reproductive system and to honor that. And our body just doesn't need to be put into stress as much as a male's does. Or I guess need to isn't the right word, but like our body shouldn't be put into this amount of stress that like compared to a male's body. So I don't think intermittent fasting is necessarily unsafe with the proper information, but I do think it's not safe when people just do it blindly. I think you need to be informed before you go into an intermittent fasting diet. And I think it's not the way to lose weight. I think if you simply say, I'm going to do intermittent fasting to lose weight, but I'm not going to change anything about my diet or my exercise or anything else other than intermittent fasting, I don't think that is going to get you where you want to go. At the end of the day, losing weight is about calories in versus calories out and what kind of calories you're eating. I think eating whole foods is going to make you feel more satisfied. It's going to nourish your body. It's going to help you with body recomposition depending on what your macros are on, protein, carbs, and fat. I think that movement is going to help you burn more calories so that you can continue to eat a healthy amount for your body weight and size rather than just cutting down to a number that is just incredibly too low. It's going to make you feel horrible about yourself. But I also think we're very quick to jump on these shiny fad diets that ultimately we can't sustain for a lifestyle. And I think if you want to lose weight, you have to make a lifestyle change if you want to keep that weight off. If you want to do a quick diet to lose however many pounds in however many days, yeah, you can do it. And yeah, it may work, but it's not going to last. You're not going to keep that weight off. And we've seen that in tons of studies, tons and tons and tons of studies. I've been through that, like myself. So I just think intermittent fasting uninformed is not safe. Though, yes, it can be effective for sure. But is it necessarily a good kind of effective? I would argue stereotypically probably not, because we're quick to just jump into fad diets. But if you're informed about what you're doing and how you're doing it, I think it could be effective. I mean, personally, I probably fast mixed with sleep and just how I time out my meals, 8 to 10 hours. That's like my fasting window a day. I'll stop eating, 8 o'clock. I go to bed at 10 and then I wake up, I do my Bible time, and then I probably break it around like 6 o'clock when I consume my first food for the day before I work out. So yeah, if you consider that intermittent fasting, I mean, technically that is a fasting window. So do with that what you will. But I do think intermittent fasting is different from like religious fasting, obviously, because religious fasting, you're like stepping away from the thing that you're relying on and replacing that with time with God. So I do think there's difference, and I am not really at the place where I can religiously fast from food right now without having the subconscious thoughts of like, oh, like what if I lose a pound? Like I'm just not there yet. So is breakfast, can I talk? I have a moving brain. Oh my goodness. Is breakfast truly the most important meal of the day? I've seen studies again with Dr. Stacy Sims for females specifically that skipping breakfast is probably the worst thing that you could do for your body. She talks about how if we don't have food like within the first hour of waking up, that your body goes into stress. So I definitely think breakfast is very, very, very important. Is it the most important? I don't know. From what I know and the information that I know, it's all about the amount that you have and getting the proper amount in. I'm not as familiar with timing windows of like when you actually eat that food, but I would say, yeah, it's pretty important. I mean, eating early for a female's body literally will set you up for the day. I also know that like when I don't eat in the morning, I binge at night, and binging also puts your body into stress. So I just think if you want to have a constant, predictable, calm nervous system, low stress, low cortisol kind of lifestyle, eating breakfast is extremely important, and that's how you're going to accomplish that. It also just like balances your hunger levels throughout the day. Like when you don't eat breakfast, your hunger is all over the place and it spikes, and it again throws your body into stress, raises your cortisol. So I would say it's pretty important. Should growth hormone and antibiotic use in livestock be banned? Personally, I think yes. I know it could be a very controversial topic, but I'm viewing this from the lens of what I know, which is what I'm ingesting. I am not a farmer. I am not working behind these companies. I've seen documentaries and done research, and that's why I choose to buy local, because I think it's cruel when you think about it, of just, pumping growth hormones into these animals. I also just think it's damaging to our system, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I can't eat that because it has growth hormones in it. Like, if I go out to a restaurant, yeah, they probably are putting stuff in their meat. Like, I have to not be blind to that fact. I just, from an animal lover perspective, it just makes me sad. So I'm just like, ugh, let's just not do it. But I do see how, the way we run and producing money and all these kind of things, like, I do see that, yes, when you have a bigger cow, you make more money. I just think it's sad. So, I mean, personally, from my life experience, I would say, yeah, we should just get away with all of it. Should all school meals meet certain nutritional standards? Personally, I think yes. I think some of these kids that are in the schools today, that's their only meal that they're going to get all day. And I think it's incredibly important that where we are learning from is where we should learn how to properly fuel ourselves. And I think, we're in this stage right now where, like, the food pyramid just changed, and, these schools are basing things off of, like the My Plate and, all of these visions of what health looks like. And although that, is relative and can be here, there, whatever, I do think that there should be standards of base nutrition that schools should provide for children, because some of them, this is their only exposure to what a nutritious meal looks like. And I think it's incredibly important that be filled and packed with as much nutrients as we can get as possible. There's not really much else I have to say about that. I just think school lunch is a perfect opportunity to provide, one, a learning opportunity, two, exposure to healthy, delicious food, and that nourishing food can be healthy. I remember going through, like, the school lunch line and, getting all sorts of stuff like pizza and French fries and all these things, but they were complete nutritious meals. Like, these things don't have to be like salad every day, the stereotypical healthy food. Like, it can be burgers and, baked potato fries and things that are somewhat of a more nourishing option. But I do think there needs to be a nutrition level that's met in every meal for schools, 100%. Is organic food worth the higher cost, or are conventional foods equally nutritious and safe? I definitely think organic foods are worth what you pay for, but I also think conventional foods are nutritious. Are they equally as nutritious? This is a relative term. Like, it depends. If you're thinking of nutritious as how much nutrients is something, the organic is going to be more nutritious. Y'all bear with me, because apparently I can't talk today. The organic version is going to be more nutritious, with things like pesticides and sprays and fertilizer things that are on, these and filled with these into these fruits and vegetables. You're stripping these fruits and vegetables of certain nutrients. Like, that's not anything to argue. That is a literal fact. But are these fruits and vegetables still nutritious? Yes. Personally, there are certain fruits and vegetables that I will buy that are organic, like maybe, I don't know. Actually, I don't really buy much organic. I just go to the farmer's market. So yes, that is organic. But if I'm wanting to save more money on our grocery bill, I'm going to buy the non-organic kind. Like, that's just the reality of being a young married couple in your 20s. Like, not everyone has the means to spend however many extra dollars on all of this food. Now, I'm incredibly blessed to have grown up in a family where we could do that. And so that was the food that I, took into my body. But like when I was in college, or like, Ryan and I are on our own dime now, like, yeah, I'm not always going to buy the organic thing. Like, I am going to try to save that money. And, but also you're definitely paying for what you're paying for. Like, organic food and non-organic food are not the same. Like, it's not like, oh, you're just wasting money for no reason. But do I think that non-organic food is nutritious? 100%. Do I think it's equally as nutritious? Probably not, but it is nutritious. And if that's the closest thing that you can get to an organic food, like, I really don't see it as less of an option. I mean, that's what we buy. We buy, the non-organic blueberries and the non-organic strawberries. Like, we do, because it's the cheaper option. But it's a fruit. Like, a fruit is a fruit, but it's definitely not the same. Like, let's be real. And one day I hope to buy all organic everything. But, right now I'll stick to spending my extra dime on the almond flour and the coconut sugar rather than the organic strawberry versus the non-organic strawberry. However, I do try to go to the farmer's market majority of the time. So I do kind of luck out with that, I guess. And usually you're going to get more bang for your buck at the farmer's market, and you're supporting local. So I'm just very pro farmer's market, eat local. Is a gluten-free diet a healthier alternative? Honestly, if you're basing it off of ingredients, no, it's not. Usually the gluten-free option is going to have more of the fake ingredients and the not as easily digestible ingredients. However, my sister, her body operates better when she doesn't consume gluten. So for someone like her who's sensitive to gluten, yeah, it's healthier because it's going to make you feel better. Your body's going to operate better. You're going to have more energy. Our body uses energy to break down gluten. Therefore, when people go gluten-free, they feel like they have more energy because your body isn't using that energy to break down gluten. It's using that energy elsewhere. So that's why people always say, like, oh my gosh, I feel like I have so much energy because I went gluten-free or I went on this gluten-free diet. Like, yeah, your body's not expending that energy to break down the gluten. So it's using that energy elsewhere to break down other foods, going through that food faster, whatever it is, whatever have you. However, if I'm looking at the option on a menu at dinner for a regular sourdough bun versus a gluten-free bun, the sourdough, ingredient-wise, nutritionally, is going to give you more nutrients and have less processed ingredients. So if that's the healthy that you're looking for, gluten-free is not the way to go. But if the healthy that you're looking for is, I'm going to feel better, or my body's puffy or inflamed, or my stomach always hurts, yeah, maybe gluten-free is the healthier option for you. But blanket statement, if we're just looking at healthy as ingredients wise, just because it says gluten-free or vegan or whatever doesn't mean that it's healthier. And usually it's actually the opposite if you're basing it on an ingredient standpoint. Should restaurants eliminate kids menus with unhealthy options? I don't think so. I think unhealthy is relative. I sound like a broken record, but how else are we going to teach our kids how to make decisions on what helps them feel good if we just eliminate that choice altogether? They're going to get into the quote unquote real world where there are all these kinds of options, and we're gonna freak. Like, if I grew up with no exposure to any kind of fried food or ultra processed food, and then one day in my 18-year-old body, I went to college and saw all this stuff, I wouldn't know how to handle it. So I don't know, like, maybe that would be all of what my diet consumed. And that's not healthy. I mean, a diet of only fried ultra processed food is not good for your body. That is a blanket statement that I will say. If you are 100% only eating ultra processed foods, you are not going to feel your best self, and that is not going to be the proper way to care for your body through food. But I do think there's a beautiful balance of 80-20, 90-10, where majority of what you're eating are these foods that are going to make you feel good. And then, yeah, you're going to have the dessert at night, and you're going to have the fried food. And I'm a dessert every night kind of girl, like a real sugar dessert every night kind of girl. I'm a fried food when I go out to dinner kind of person. Like, that's going to be me. But I learned how to make those decisions through exposure to those foods, and I'm not scared of those foods and deem those foods as bad. Those foods aren't bad. They just are composed differently. So personally, I do not think we should remove that because unhealthy is relative. For example, and when I say unhealthy is relative, this is what I mean. If I am a child that needs to put on weight, okay? I am just very undernourished and I need to put on weight to be a healthier version of myself. If I'm looking at this menu and I see a salad, which is a stereotypical healthy food with, a vinaigrette and grilled chicken, that's not probably going to be the most calorie dense option for me. However, it's stereotypically a healthy food, but maybe for my body and my needs, I need those extra calories through fried foods. Like fried foods are higher in calories. And in order to put on weight, I need more calories. Therefore, maybe the healthy food for where I'm at in life as a small child is to eat the fried foods. That's what I mean when I say healthy is a relative term. So, yeah, but I'm also not going to sit here and be like, a grilled chicken salad is less nutritious than French fries. Like, no, obviously in my adult body, yeah, because when you're looking at the ingredients of things, you're going to have more vitamins and minerals and things like that. However, for the young child, that might be what they need. So anyways. All right. Last question. Is there a link between... No, I don't want to ask that. Okay. Last question. Okay. Last question. Is grass-fed meat healthier than grain-fed meat? I mean, again, healthy. Okay, we're not answering that one. Healthy is relative. We're moving on. Should food labeling include more information about the environmental impact of products? Yes, I think yes, 100%. I need more information about the environmental impact of products. That is something that I'm not as informed about, and I don't see any harm in including that personally. I definitely feel like it could damage some certain products because I'm sure I'm consuming products that have a horrible environmental damage in our world today, and I just don't know it, and I'm blind to the fact, and I haven't sought that out, and that's on me. And I want to get better at that. But also there is a lot. There's a lot I need to get informed about. I'm never going to do enough. And I think that's the beauty of being a Christian and knowing that truth is that like, I'm never going to do enough. Like I've learned that from being saved by Jesus Christ. Like I'm never going to do enough for him because I'm human. Like I can never hit that point where it's like, and finally I've done it. Like that's not a thing. And I think the parallel is the same with our health. Anyways, that's where I'll kind of end that because there's a lot there, and I wish I could just go on and on and on and on about these topics because I could go back and forth all day, and I think part of that reason is because of everything that I've been through. Honestly, that's probably majority of the reason because I am very sensitive to the fact that there are so many different cases out there, and at the end of the day, I am a firm believer that everyone has their own story and everyone has their own baggage that they're bringing into health and wellness is so much more than just the facts. It is emotions. And so, at the end of the day, that's where I stand with majority of things is everyone has their own personal stories that make up what they define these terms as. And yes, facts are facts. You can't argue with facts, but there's so much more that plays into it. Health is such an extensive, deep, layered topic. So prayers for anyone going through any struggles with that. Please know I have been there. Somewhere else I have been is crazy dating. And we are now going to get into some of your crazy dating stories. We have 2 to read today. And this segment has now officially, by our friend Callie Bradenberg, I think is how you pronounce it, has officially named our segment. This is Letters to the Luckets. Isn't it so cute? I love it. Letters to the Luckets. So we have some of your craziest dating stories. Let's get into this first one. Hey, Abby and Ryan. My name is Riley. I love y'all's podcast so much. You've helped me so much through hard things in life, including dating. So here's my craziest dating story. Hi, Riley. Love you. You're the best. Thanks for submitting this. I'm excited to read it. So I went on a first date one time with this guy and ended up sitting at a table with my ex and my current date. Girl, what? You ended up sitting with your ex? That's wild. Things got crazy and awkward, so here's the full story. It seemed like a normal date at first, but then got crazy as the night went on. We went to eat and went back to his place to watch TV, and then he got a text from his friends saying they were at a restaurant watching a live band. So my date said, let's go do that. I didn't want to seem rude, so I just said, sure. That would make me cringe so hard. I mean, I would have done the same thing, but like if he was like, hey, let's go hang out with my friends. How old was this guy? I feel like he seems young. Is he young? Nothing against the guy. I'm just saying, like, that doesn't seem like a person in their mid-20s thing to do. Anyways, okay. We go, and lo and behold, my ex is sitting at the table with the other guys. It was so awkward. Not my idea of a good first date. Number one, the music was so loud that we literally couldn't hear each other talk, so we had to end up sitting in silence. Oh my gosh, that is actually, now that you say that, that's like the worst. When you go somewhere, you're like, especially when you're meeting someone new for the first time, like if you're with people that you actually like know, it's not like as big of a deal. It's kind of just like frustrating because you can't have like a conversation, but it's like, okay, well, like we'll just sit here, I guess. But when it's someone new, it's so awkward because you're like, ooh, I'm cringing for you, girl. Number two, I was right across from my ex and he didn't say a word to me. I mean, yeah, it's kind of awkward. Then my ex tried to get my date to ditch me and go hang out with him for the rest of the night. What? My date didn't do that, but it was still not a fun experience. Needless to say, we didn't go on another date after that. Props to your date for not ditching you, but also like you didn't sign up to hang out with the bros. You didn't sign up to hang out with the bros. You lasted longer than I would have. I would have been like, hey, I'm sorry, my dog. Or wow, props to you. Also, I mean, what are you supposed to do in a situation like that? No, literally, like what are you supposed to do? Because if you make conversation with your ex, then you seem like you want to get back together with your ex, and maybe you're giving like mixed signals. But if he starts up a conversation with you, he's like trying to hit on his bro's girl. Did the date not know? Maybe the date didn't know. That has to be it. If the date knew that the ex was there, he should not have brought her. Man, sorry, Riley. I hate that for you. It does make a good podcast topic, though. So, I mean, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Love you, Riley. Hope your next dating experience is a little bit more smooth than that one. If you're a man, don't take her to hang out with the bros. Just don't. All right, next one. Hey guys, big fans of you both. I'm an avid potty listener and I follow you on Instagram. You're so encouraging and it's lovely to see you guys live life to the fullest with such strong love for God. Thank you. Mwah! Okay, anyways, here's my craziest dating story, which happens to pretty much be my only dating story. Oh no, it gets better, I promise. It does get better. I too have had many crazy dating stories and now I have a husband, so it works out. So I met a boy last December through a mutual friend and we got close fast. We had a really strong talking phase and almost 3 weeks in, he asked me to be his girlfriend. The first 2 weeks of dating were great. He was taking me on dates, having the hard conversations with me, getting to know me deeply, setting important Christ-centered boundaries, period. We love that. Just right from the get-go, assess your boundaries. I love it. 0 red flags, like genuinely, I couldn't find a single one. That right there, low key, could be a red flag, I would argue. If they have no red flags, like we're all human. We're all human. Moving on. But then one day he wasn't really responding and I just felt really off and self-conscious. Rightfully so. I would also feel like that if he just randomly started ghosting me. That's not normal, ladies. That's not normal. Well, maybe it is normal. That's not how you should be treated. And there are men that won't treat you like that. Moving on, I didn't feel like I knew how to be a girlfriend. It was my first time and I couldn't tell if I was doing the right things. I knew he was busy with work, but I called him just to hear some reassurance. That was good. Good. I'm glad. We have to speak up for how we feel in relationships. Too often, I feel like women especially put their needs aside because they don't want to be like a crazy girlfriend and create this narrative like, I don't want to be crazy. No, like, you just care about this person. So you want to express how you feel so you don't brush things under the rug. Like, we have needs. Everyone has needs. And if you don't verbalize those needs, it doesn't make you more of like a tough person. It honestly just causes you to be not smart. Like, that's just setting yourself up for failure. We've got to speak about how we feel. That's literally the point of well, it's not the point of the relationship, but it's such an important aspect in a relationship, is saying how you feel. If honesty is not there, it's going to be a mess. So good for you. I just needed him to say that he liked me and that our relationship was important to him too. His response, yeah, I guess I like you. Bro, what? That's crazy. Was he there's no way he was like joking, right? Like, yeah, I guess I like you, like being funny. There's no way. Dude, what? Okay. That's a crazy response. So the opposite of helpful. Yeah, that's definitely, I think that's very revealing. If he was being 100% genuine, end it right there, girl. End it. A lot easier said than done, but. And from that point on, things stayed weird. Over the next 2 or 3 days, he sent me maybe 3 texts total being super vague. Red flag. Claiming he had no service and couldn't contact me. Meanwhile, he's posting to his Instagram story multiple times a day, so that's a lie. Bro. Walk away. Oh, and did I mention that one of those days he was MIA was my birthday? Bruh. After freaking out and convincing myself that he was going to break up with me, I called my mom and we decided that I should stop making excuses for him. Period, mom. We love a good mom chat. Yes. Love that. There really is no reason good enough to ghost me on my birthday. Yeah, isn't that crazy that like we'll create these little narratives in our head that like fight for the guy or girl, but from my perspective, the guy, to like, oh, this is why he did this, so it's okay. When you really have an outsider lens, it's like, this is not okay. There's no reason in the book that this should happen. Or if you aren't going to have service, tell me that before you go. Like, tell me that before you go somewhere and then not have service so that I am expecting it. Don't just be like, bleh. That's very obviously an excuse. Okay, there is really no good reason for him to ghost me on my birthday. Correct. The second I got a hold of him, I was ending it because I deserve better. The day after my birthday, he finally agrees to get on the phone. Ha, finally agrees? He's your boyfriend. Oh, I feel so sad for you, girl. This is not how you should be treated. And he opens with the information that he had moved to Arizona. I'm flabbergasted. We do not live anywhere near Arizona. He just got a random job there and left. No heads up, nothing. And because so this man is old enough to move for a job. I was thinking this man was like in high school. Whew, that's crazy. And because he was being so dry and avoidant of the topic, I ended up being the one to say, okay, I guess we're breaking up then. Ugh, so stupid. So I'm processing all of this and trying to move on when 2 weeks later he texts our mutual friend a completely different story. He claimed that on my birthday his lung had collapsed, which to be fair was a real pre-existing issue he'd mentioned before that I told him to get checked out. Clearly he did not listen. Apparently he blacked out, ended up in the emergency surgery, and while he was recovering he decided he couldn't be there for me. So instead of, I don't know, telling me any of this, he just didn't and let me do the breaking up anyway. And look, if that's true, it's genuinely awful and I feel for him, but I had no idea what actually is true and I don't think I ever will. Your guess is as good as mine. Moral of the story, if a guy you're dating virtually disappears on you, lies about what he's up to, ghosts you on your birthday, secretly moves to Arizona, and then surfaces weeks later with a completely different story involving emergency surgery, just delete his number and don't look back. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to provide additional details. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. You know, it really is sad. Like, I could sit here and be like, oh my gosh, girl, this is so crazy and blah, blah, and leave him. And blah, blah. But honestly, it is just sad. Like, time and time again, there are people in relationships that just aren't taught the tools to communicate. And that's what this sounds like, is that he didn't learn how to communicate. When I first started dating Ryan, He didn't know how to like tell me his emotions. Like he didn't know that. And so at first I was like, well, he just doesn't want to tell me how he feels. But then a very wise mentor was like, it's not that he doesn't want to, he doesn't know how to. And that's what this situation sounds like. I think you did 100% the correct thing in leaving him. Like that's not for you to teach him, you know what I mean? But that's like a very extreme, like, yes, get out of that situation because this is just crazy. But it is just sad that, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of probably hurt there, honestly, and just confusion and not knowing how to tell you, hey, like, I don't want to be in this anymore. Like, it almost sounded like he was trying to force you to break up, like you said. Like, he was just trying to play the I'm gonna break up emotionally game so that you break up literally game. And yeah, that breaks my heart. I'm sorry that was your only dating experience. It will get better. It always gets better. It does get better. And when it gets better, you'll look back and be like, oh my gosh, why did I put up with that? That's not how it should be at all. So know your worth and love like Jesus loves, but sometimes loving like Jesus loving is saying like, hey, this isn't where I should be. I'm going to remove myself. So again, sad that it happened to you. Glad that you grew from it. And shout out to your mom for pushing you in the right direction. So with that being said, let's do for our next week. For next week, send in a funny or fun family story, something funny or crazy or wild that's happened with your family. We want to read those, read about your family, and get to know you guys. So with that being said, thank you for submitting. Thanks for listening to my controversial hot take opinions. And yeah, I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching. Jesus loves you. I love you. And that's life. See you guys next week.